The trouble started when the redhead arrived. Her green eyes sparkling with bad intentions. She led me into her bedroom. The redhead was relentless, texting me day and night. She sent me a song which has haunted me ever since. I put a spell on you, but a much darker and sinister sounding one. The redhead, meanwhile, was tapping the table with her razor-like nails, staring at me. Her cold and calculated glare gave me the creeps. Apparently, Rosetta threatened to kill her if she ever spoke to me again. Before me was Dexter, stewing in a pool of blood and gore. His eyeballs were gouged and bloodied, his tongue lying limply next to his mutilated body. This was all too much, too fast. Welcome to another episode of Drawing and Telling Intense Stories. Doing what I love to do, which is drawing, while entertaining you with intense horror stories. Let's go! What started as a typical New Year's Eve gig at a newly renovated hole in the wall has become something far worse. I'm the bass player. Insert punchline here. I'm pretty good too, although I only play part-time. Back in the day, I played with Velvet on Fire. You won't remember us. We played one gig for 6 people. Then our singer, Rod Brimstone, leapt onto someone's table and urinated. Talk about game over, but I digress. My latest group, a blues rock cover band called Falling Forward, was hired to perform 3 sets of music. The trouble started when the redhead arrived. I was at the bar, minding my own business, when out of the blue, a radiant redhead clad entirely in black leather grabbed my ass. "What you drinking?" Her voice sounded like an ashtray. She was tall, with emerald eyes and a sleeve of tattoos. I did a double take. I gulped. "Whatever you're buying." She winked, twirled her lip ring, then slid her icy fingers between my legs. Subtlety was not her strength. The beer arrived and we cheers. She said her name was Rosetta. I introduced myself as Derek, the bass player, while forcing her hand further north. Then, after some throwaway small talk, I sauntered towards the stage, more than ready for the band's third and final set. Falling Forward played a raucous set. Mick, the lead singer and harmonica player, worked the audience into a frenzy. Leading the party was Rosetta, dancing sexily, swinging her hips to and fro, fist-pumping and catcalling. When the band finished its final set, I started loading the gear into Mick's van. I was exhausted, with little patience for patronizing drunks, pestering me. Despite this, the redhead came strutting over. Next thing I know, I'm slow dancing to Every Rose Has Its Thorn, via karaoke. Ugh. I didn't know which was worse, the drunken, out-of-tune singing or being forced to dance to it. Her perfume smelled like sweet summer rain, but her exploring hands were icebergs. We wiggled and wormed along the crowded dance floor until finally and thankfully, the song ended. Next came the tequila. Things get blurry by this point. Somehow, despite the redhead's relentless flirting, I finished loading the gear and Mick drove me home. She must have gotten my phone number, because the following morning, I awoke to a flashing phone. And one hell of a hangover. "Hey, handsome," the redhead texted, "come over." Included was a video of her masturbating. Not gonna lie, I was kinda turned on. Don't judge! It had been a while since I'd had sex. My hormones got the best of me. Still, I had my reservations. Rosetta was a bit over the top for my tastes. And that's putting it mildly. So, I reached out to Mick, asking for advice. His reply was instantaneous. Strike while the kettle's hot. And that's exactly what I did. Rosetta greeted me with opened arms and ruby lips. Her perfume was potent, her green eyes sparkling with bad intentions. She led me into her bedroom. To my dismay, Velvet on Fire's One Andinley event poster was pasted onto her wall, below a giant 9-inch Nails poster. I gulped. She was one of the 6 who saw my old band.
"I love music,"
she said softly, in between kisses. Then she got to work. I left her apartment thinking I would never see her again. Unfortunately, this was not the case. The redhead was relentless, texting me day and night, sending naughty pics, insisting I come over. Finally, I caved. Yes, I'm weak. Spare me the lecture. This time was different. Rosetta was banged up, her face a barrage of bruises. Her eyes were puffy and red, her bottom lip split open.
"Bar fight,"
she said while sucking my earlobes. She got the worst of it. Bar fight? Clearly this redhead was bad news. I wanted to leave right then and there. Should have too. Then none of this would have happened. But it was too late. I was trapped. She led me into her bedroom. We did the dirty, then I left, having no intention of speaking to her again. This time I meant it. The redhead kept sending naughty pics, but I ignored them. After a week or so, I thought she'd gotten the hint. Her messaging stopped. Then, out of the blue, ding. My phone flew off the couch. Rosetta's name splashed across the screen. I groaned. She sent me a song which has haunted me ever since. I put a spell on you. Not the popular version, but a much darker and sinister sounding one. I disliked it immediately. I replied saying I was super busy, which was true, and that we should remain friends, which was not true. Her response gave me chills. Or mine. Things escalated. I work at a local music shop. The following day, my boss greeted me harshly. He seemed upset. "Look at this!" He handed me an old Velvet on Fire poster. I gasped. Then I tripped and fell backwards, knocking over an entire row of guitars. "You idiot!" my boss snapped. "That's coming off your pay." Grudgingly, I gathered the guitars and checked for dings, but my mind remained on the poster, or more accurately, the note written on the back of it. "Or mine! The poster was nailed to the door," my boss scoffed, shaking his head. "People these days." My mind went sideways. The note was written in Rosetta's rosy lipstick. Was she stalking me? Who would do such a thing? Making matters worse, later that week, Mick messaged me with a song request. "I put a spell on you." Coincidence, I told myself. But I didn't believe it. Sometime later, I met a lovely woman named Melanie, who was cute and timid and polite. She dressed modestly and wore little to no makeup. She was the antithesis of Rosetta. Since Falling Forward were due to perform that weekend, I invited her to the show. Melanie was delighted. As the weekend grew nearer, so did my anxiety. This was a terrible idea. We were playing the same hole in the wall as before. Rosetta would certainly be there. How would she react to seeing me with another woman? Maybe, I hoped, she would get the hint and leave me the hell alone. Oh, how naive I was! Melanie sat up front. She seemed in good spirits, but I was nervous. I kept scanning the bar, looking for you-know-who. Then, as the band launched into "I Put a Spell on You," a cold shiver slid down my spine. The barroom turned cold as ice. During set break, I remained on stage, acting busy. Truth is, I was panicking. How could I be so stupid? The last thing I wanted was a confrontation. On cue, the redhead came rushing over with beers. She offered me one. I said thank you, then awkwardly sat with Melanie, who kept asking if I was okay. I wasn't. My pits were soaked with sweat. I was tripping over my words, barely able to speak. All I could do was sip my beer and pray something dreadful didn't happen. The redhead, meanwhile, was tapping the table with her razor-like nails, staring at me. Her cold and calculated glare gave me the creeps. Finally, under the weight of the world, I excused myself and went to the bar. Before my drink arrived, a pair of icy fingers fondled my private parts. "Hey, handsome." Rosetta's face was fiery red. Her lips, like blackened cherries, pursed into a scowl. She cracked her knuckles twice, then nodded towards Melanie. "Who's the bitch?" Her hand reached down, cupping my ever-shrinking testicles. "Well, you see, She squeezed. "Whoa!" I freed myself. Then I scooted off to the restroom, away from prying eyes. "This is nuts," I told myself, splashing cold water on my face. Obviously, the redhead wasn't playing with a full deck. But what could I do about it? I certainly couldn't ask her to leave. And I wasn't about to ignore Melanie. I was exasperated. I took a deep breath, then returned to the table. Melanie was frantic, her eyes trembling with terror. Apparently, Rosetta paid her a visit. I could only assume it went poorly. "How dare you?" Melanie spat. She marched out of the bar, leaving me with the bill. "And without a date!" H1, H3. "You don't need that bitch," Rosetta snickered. "You're mine." Her hands booped my buttocks. Mick, sensing trouble, meandered over. "Time to play, bro," he said. The band opened with New Orleans is Sinking, a local bar band favorite. Everyone was dancing and singing along, including Rosetta, who jumped on stage and started grinding against me, plunking the bass strings. Then she tried pouring a full beer down my throat. Instead, she soaked the stage and my bass with suds. Whooping and hollering, she slipped and stumbled off the stage, resulting in a fantastic face plant, taking a few patrons with her. It was a total debacle. A fight broke out. Soon thereafter, she got ejected, and the band was barred from ever performing there again. The following day, I received a long-winded text from Melanie. Apparently, Rosetta threatened to kill her if she ever spoke to me again. Yikes. Then the redhead went on to disparage my reputation. Not good. Melanie concluded by saying she was busy and that we should just be friends. Oh, bittersweet irony. I was heartbroken and furious. Ding, the redhead. I put a spell on you. Ding, 'cause you're mine. I responded hastily. 2 and 3, we are over. In fact, we never were. To further drive home the point, I added, please stay away. Things settled for a while. Life went back to normal. Then my credit card bill arrived. H only, it wasn't. After an arduous hour chatting with the credit card company, their conclusion was concrete. Someone was using my credit card to purchase pricey perfume, clothes, leather boots, and accessories. The redhead. I spent the day chatting with the cops who offered little help. The damned redhead was ruining my life, and it was up to me to stop her. But how? She denied everything, of course, and scolded me for such ludicrous accusations. Then she invited me back to her place. The nerve of this woman. The following week, the unthinkable happened. I was heading to bed when Dexter, my adorable Dalmatian, started going berserk. He should have been sleeping, cuddled in his cozy kennel in the yard, not barking. Cursing the mangy mutt, I went out back to check on him. The night was moonless and stark. A chill crept into my bones as I crunched along the yard. The gate was open, which was odd. It should have been locked. While locking the gate, I detected a smattering of sweet-smelling perfume. The redhead. Dexter calmed down after gobbling some tasty treats. Meanwhile, I scanned the yard, searching for intruders. Then I stormed inside, angry and confused. Sleep couldn't come. How could it? My mind kept returning to the redhead, and what deplorable deeds she was doing. The following morning, I went outside to feed the dog. My heart was pounding like a kick drum at a heavy metal concert. Quickly, I panicked. Something was wrong. First off, the gate was open. Again. Plus, Dexter was being quiet. Too quiet. Which is unlike him. As I inched cautiously towards the kennel, the sweet smell of perfume grew stronger. When I reached the kennel, I gasped. My heart sank into my shoes. Before me was Dexter, stewing in a pool of blood and gore. His eyeballs were gouged and bloodied, his tongue lying limply next to his mutilated body. Stapled to his mangy, blood-soaked fur was a velvet-on-fire poster. Stunned and horrified, I seized the poster. On the back, scribbled in crimson-colored blood, was a note. I vomited. Connor, my roommate, was glaring at me from the kitchen, his eyes searing with suspicion. When I told him what happened, he turned ghost white. Then he called the cops, who again were of little help. I was unhinged. Terrible thoughts tore through my troubled mind. Why Dexter? What did he do to deserve such a fate? And why me, for that matter? I'm not a bad guy. Then, with a heavy heart, I buried my dead dog Dexter. The feeling of being watched was impossible to ignore. Somewhere close was the redhead, taunting me. Proving this, a song wafted through the crisp, early morning air. I put a spell on you. Ding! Unknown sender. With shaky movements, I found my phone and shrieked. On my phone was a picture of me burying Dexter. I raced into the house and locked all the doors. Grief held me in its terrible grip while I wept. This was all too much, too fast. Ding! Sighing, I looked down and nearly died. I put a spell on you, my phone read. 'Cause you're mine.